Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times. Today I'm here to talk to you about all of the books that I read in the month of April.
It's coffee time!
So the month of April, I decided to kind of slow down with my reading, but I still managed to read 13 books. Some of them are short, and that's part of the reason why I got to read so much. And honestly, even though there were a couple of disappointments, there's quite some books here that I really truly enjoyed. So I'm here to talk to you about them, to let you know which things I enjoyed, which things I didn't, and give you my rating. And if you're new here and you love horror, you love books, please consider subscribing to the channel and also hit the notification bell before you leave. Also, if you're new here, please note that we rate books in this channel with coffee mugs, and we start with the lower rating and go up to the highest rating. The book that I could nearly not finish, and it was really a chore to push myself to finish this book, was Everyday Monsters by Travis Spence. I really wanted to enjoy this black horror comedy, and it is a book that deals with vampires and werewolves and is supposed to be fun and weird and gory. And the problem is that even though the story kind of started fairly straightforward and you're following different characters, there is a point in the book where the plot gets extremely messy. The thing is, we're following different characters that are going through different things in their lives. Sometimes their paths meet, but the way that the book is edited and divided, it makes it so confusing to know who's talking now, what's going on. I didn't like the way the chapters were kind of organized. It just made it even harder to follow, and when you have different plots with different characters going on at the same time, it helps good editing. It helps so much. I did enjoy that they gave us a kind of like a fresh take at times on the vampire myth, on the vampire genre, and there are some bizarre, weird moments. We even get some really nice gore, but like I said, it was just really messy, and it really didn't let me enjoy the book. And I think at some point, perhaps the author, I don't know, was too ambitious or wanted to put too many things in the same book. And it's one of those times where the overload of stuff is kind of making the book fail, at least for me. So if you were considering on picking it up, by all means, try it. You know, we don't have to have the same opinion or the same taste, but it was just not for me. It's time to start with the books that for some reason didn't work for me. And I know the first book that I'm gonna talk about, a lot of people really enjoyed, and I think that this was really a subjective thing. I just think this book, the writing, the pacing was just not for me, but it was not a bad book. And that is Your Turn to Suffer by Tim Wagner. I was really excited about this book because it is a new release and it was supposed to deal with cults, and it's something that I really enjoyed. And part of the reason perhaps why I was disappointed is that there is not really too much about the cult in the book, or as much as I hoped. We follow Lorelai and we see her life kind of tumbling down as a group called the Cabal starts reaching out to her, and they are asking her to confess, or otherwise she will have to suffer. The problem is Lorelai doesn't know what she did in order for the Cabal to come for her, so she doesn't know who these people are or what they want from her. I really enjoyed to see Lorelai as a character and the changes that she had to go through the book. And at the beginning, I really loved that they were giving us, you know, hints on how these people from the Cabal approach her. She started seeing weird people at the supermarket, and everything around her seems to be kind of, you know, blurring the line between what's real and what's fantasy. Now, this is a weird fiction, so there is a lot of fantastical elements to it, and the horror is more kind of in the weird fantastic side, so it has to be something that you like. I do not mind weird fiction. I just feel like these kind of fantastic nightmares were a little bit too much for me. There were a lot of them in the book, and the pacing as well was something that it didn't vibe with me, so that's why I say maybe this book was just not for me in general, but I don't think at all that it was a bad book. The next book is the book that I would like to call the one where they lied to me, and that is Watch Her Fall by Erin Kelly. Now, I picked this up because I thought this was a mystery thriller, and unfortunately it was not really a mystery thriller. This was more kind of like a family drama, and yeah, there's a couple of twists here and there or something, but I didn't feel like this was like a full-on mystery thriller. And to be honest, this is another one that 40% into the book I really considered DNFing it, and I had to push myself to finish it because it's a new release, so I just wanted to finish it to see what I thought in general about the book, also because I thought perhaps there was something more towards a thriller that's gonna come maybe later, but it wasn't. I wanted to really enjoy this book because it has to do with a ballet school, and you know, the owner and his daughter, and they are going to put together Swan Lake, and so there's of course a rivalry between the people there because they all want to get casted as one of the main characters in this play, and of course everybody wants to be, you know, the black swan or the white swan. And I was hoping to see a lot more of that competitive world of ballet. I was hoping, you know, maybe somebody gets killed because they want to take their place in this play, something like that, kind of like more typical murder mystery. But no, this was more kind of like a slow burn character exploration. Yes, there are towards the end a couple of twists, but this was so dragging, unfortunately. However, I thought that it would be unfair for me to give this book a really low rating because it is beautifully written. I really like the style. It's just that it was really dragging and boring for me because I was not here for a family full-on drama, slow-paced. It was just not my type of thing. So I decided just to give it a 3 to be fair, because it's not like the book was bad. It was just not the type of book that I wanted. Now let's talk about the Monster Street books. I have a complete reading blog in which I talk about them a little bit more in detail, and I give you my thoughts on every single book, so I will post that up there for you guys in case you want to check it out. The first book is The Boy Who Cried Werewolf, and in this story we follow Max. He goes to visit his grandparents and he has not seen them for a long time, and while he's visiting his grandparents he decides to investigate his father's death, only to discover that werewolves are real. The second book is The Halloweeners, and in this story we follow a couple of kids that go trick-or-treating, and they eat a very special candy that is turning them into the monsters that they dressed up as, and if they don't reverse the effect they will remain these monsters forever. The third book in this series is my absolute favorite, and that's Carnival, and it's my favorite because it was really dark and twisted. I mean, all of these are, that's why I love them so much, but this one was my favorite. It follows two brothers that go to this carnival that they were warned not to go, because we all know that's what you do in horror stories. And when they're there and they run out of tickets, they discover that there is another way to keep going into the rides, but it has a really high price. And in our fourth book we follow Harper, that is being sent to Camp Moonlake, and it is a very exclusive camp that all kids want to go to. But when she gets there and they start telling stories around the fire, she realizes that some people have disappeared here and nobody has ever found them again. And this is a book that had a twist that I did not see coming, and this series was so great. It was also full of messages, you know, about empowerment, about discovering who you are, accepting who you are. Also, it deals with bullying, and it has really good messages also, you know, connecting the kids with their families. It is fantastic. Love this series. If you have kids in your house that are the appropriate age, definitely recommend you guys to pick these ones up. I absolutely love them, and I'm really praying that they're going to continue with the series. I would absolutely love it. Next we have another new release that I've really wanted to check out, and that is Near the Bone by Christina Henry. Now this book was a surprise for me because I was not expecting this type of book from the author, because it is different from other books that I have read by her. However, it doesn't mean that I did not enjoy this book. I really did. This is such an intelligent, smart way of telling a story about monsters, and not just monsters as we expect them to be, creatures, but also the monsters that some human beings can be, and about the darkness of us as humans. This follows a couple that has been living all their lives in this snowed mountain, and one morning Maddie, she finds the mutilated body of a fox, and she thinks that there is a monster, a really big bear, something in the woods that might be dangerous for her and her husband. And so they go to investigate to see if there's any cave or anywhere that they can find this monster, put some traps, kind of protect themselves. That is kind of like the pitch at the very beginning, but then you start to realize that this book is not just about that, but it is also about self-discovery. It is almost a coming-of-age story for Maddie, but she's already an adult. And it was just such a dark story, and there is not much more that I want to tell you about this book, because I feel like if I tell you something else, it's going to be a spoiler, so we're just going to leave it at here. But if you love books that have a lot of character exploration and where things are not like they seem, with really dark topics, then this one might be for you. And there are some trigger warnings for this book, but as I have learned from my friend Olivia over at Olivia's Catastrophe, I'm gonna leave now the trigger warnings from now on the description box down below, because some trigger warnings can be considered spoilers, but I also at the same time want to protect you guys in case that you need to check if these books have any triggers for you. So from now on, I'm gonna try my best not to forget and to put all the trigger warnings in the description box down below. That way you can check if you need to check any trigger warnings for yourself, and I'm also not spoiling any books with any trigger warnings. Next we have The Room Upstairs by Ian Rob Wright, and this was a pleasant surprise. I found this book on audiobook. Now that I am going out on long walks, I am starting to listen to audiobooks again, which I think is going to be also helpful, you know, to be productive while I walk. I can still read. And this book was so great. I think it's a novella, I think it's a short one, and it is about a family that after visiting a second-hand store, they each buy something small for themselves as a treat, since they are kind of financially struggling, but they can allow themselves just a little treat from the second-hand store. And little do they know that one of the things that they have picked is going to put them in danger. There are some weird things that start to happen in the house, and also they start to feel that there's something wrong with them, with their bodies, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I will tell you though, I did not expect this story to get as dark as it got, as messed up and gory as it got, and I was here for it. I really enjoyed it. This was such a hidden gem that I just found because I just happened to come across the audiobook, and I'm so happy because I didn't have this book on my radar, and I definitely recommend you guys to pick it up. Moving on with The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor. Now, my favorite still remains The Other People. However, this comes really close. I really loved this thriller because it is incorporating something into the story that we don't always see, which is more of an exploration of religion and the church that I have not really seen in other thrillers at all. I cannot remember on the top of my head of any other thriller that has went so much into detail about it, and I loved to see it. Also bringing up some topics that used to be problematic in the church, in religion, and I love to see how Jack is being so compassionate and inclusive. And Jack is a woman that is looking for a new start. She is a vicar, and she takes her daughter and moves to a teeny tiny town, hoping to start over, get a new life, and she's going to be the new vicar of this small chapel. Now, when she gets there, she doesn't know that there's a lot of things that people have not told her, things that have happened in that same chapel, and she starts slowly but surely discovering some really gruesome crimes. And while she talks to the people in town, all of them start to give her more and more information to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together. This was again a great thriller by CJ Tudor. There is something about her stories that they just drag me in, and I end up really invested with the characters. I also have a full-on spoiler-free reading vlog about this book in case you're interested to know a little bit more. The next one is a novella, and that is Chopping Spree by Angela Sylvain. I really love this one. This is one of those super fun, action-packed slashers that is going to take you back in time. We are in a small town that has a mall that is inspired by the 80s, so all the stores, the music, everything is inspired on the 80s. And Penny gets a job at one of the stores in this mall. Now, one day they close to kind of do some inventory, and then they hear some sounds on the outside, and they realize that there is a killer on the loose inside of the mall, locked in with them. And that is when the survival games start. This was very gory, it was very satisfying. I love the turn that it took that I'm not going to tell you about because it would be spoiling it, but this was just so good. If you're looking for a great slasher novella, pick this one up. The next one is one of my most anticipated books for 2021, and that is Whisper Down the Lane. Now, after loving the remaking so much, I was really excited to pick up the author's second novel, and it did not disappoint. I only gave it 4 coffee mugs, but that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the book. This was a really well-written, fast-paced, entertaining, smart story, and I was there for it. I binged it, loved it, also have a vlog for this one, and it is based on the satanic panic of the 80s, and specifically on the schools and the problems between the children and the teachers that were being accused of performing certain rituals or playing certain kind of forbidden games with the kids. And it is all based kind of in true events, and I have the feeling after reading the author's second book that his books are kind of documentaries. That's what they feel to me, and probably that's also why they appeal so much to me, because I love myself documentaries. I watch all of them. I'm a sucker for documentaries. I just love them. I just binge them, specifically when they deal with a dark topic, when they are true crime documentaries. I'm there for it. And I think that's why I love his stories so much, because this is like watching a documentary based on the theme, but in book format. We follow here 2 characters. We have Sean, he's 5, and he lives in 1982 to 1983. And he lives with his mom that is financially struggling. It's a single mom, and it kind of tells you how Sean is also struggling at his new school and the things that are happening there with the kids and the teachers. And then we also follow Richard in 2013. He is a school arts teacher, and the life from Sean and Richard are way more connected than we know. We're slowly going to discover why these 2 characters are linked together, and Richard's life is going to go into a decline after certain things that are going to happen to him, and his past is going to come knocking at his door. So that's all I'm gonna tell you. I really enjoyed it, but don't expect a full-on horror, extremely dark story, because it was not that dark and not that much horror. But if you're interested in the theme and you just want to read kind of about it, you know, following the characters, then it might be for you. And the last one is another new release, in this case a debut that I also happen to have a vlog for. I think I've made too many vlogs this month, but that is Mina and D Undead by Amy McCall, and I absolutely freaking loved this debut novel about vampires set in New Orleans. This is a YA horror story and we follow Mina. She goes to visit her sister Libby that lives in New Orleans and works in a horror movie kind of haunted house. And Mina has always loved horror, so she's really excited to explore everything in New Orleans and just go to all of the places like the cemeteries, the museums, and all of those things. Everything is going really good until there is an accident one day in this haunted house, and after that Mina, Libby, and their friends are going to be in danger. If you are a horror fan, you're probably gonna enjoy this book because it has many references about movies and TV shows and books and everything horror related, and you're going to see many tropes or things related to horror movies, horror stories, and they're gonna just give you exactly what you need. This is such a bingeable, fast-paced, action-packed book and I absolutely loved it. I am really praying we're gonna get part 2. There are rumors of a sequel and I will be totally down for it. This is a book in which so many things happen and it never gets boring. So if you want to explore New Orleans following our group of friends that kind of resemble the Scooby-Doo gang but trying to catch vampires, then this is definitely for you. Alright you guys, so this was my wrap up for the month of April. I hope that you enjoyed this video and let me know if you have read any of the books that I have mentioned. I always like to know your opinions because sometimes we can have such different opinions on books. And also let me know what is the best book that you read in the month of April. Which one would you recommend me? Thanks so much for watching you guys. As always, please give the video a big thumbs up for support and I hope to see you all guys in the next coffee time. Bye!